Hello, this is The Thing About Cars. Thank you for joining us. We are recording, as always, in Strongbox West in Atlanta. Today, around the table, we've got...
Ben.
Becca.
Katie, and I have a guest with me.
Who's your guest?
His name is Tay.
Tay, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Tay, what do you do for a living?
I am an automotive painter and fabricator.
Are we allowed to say where you and Katie met?
We'll just say a previous job.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
At a used car dealership.
As a used car dealership. Okay, that's cool. So what led you to do this kind of work?
It started off kind of being forced to it. I guess, you do what your parents do. And my father was an automotive painter. Go stay with him during the summers or visit during the summers. You got to go to work because he has to go to work. He can't sit at the house.
Right.
So around 13, started getting in the shop painting, doing body work. And it's tried to run away, but I'm still here.
So does that mean you're good at it?
I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
Yes.
So what, and this is a question for Katie too, what separates a good painter from an average painter?
Knowing how to fix your mistakes.
That's an
and
interesting
doing it
answer.
well.
Yeah.
Going back over and fixing it is a lot harder than the original time.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say something like getting your prep work done properly first, getting the body done properly first. So.
That too, for the most part. But if you do make a mistake, you have to actually know how to do it right, and you have to do it in a different way than you would if you were actually going to prep it the first time for it to be painted the first time.
Okay, you sound like you work with me. That's what I always say.
And I actually learned a very important lesson with auto body repair this weekend, or a couple of days ago, actually. Don't do it while your children are around if your children are jerks. I was trying not to call them something inappropriate. They were fighting so much, I punched the plastic stapler through my front grill.
Oh, my goodness.
So now I'm fixing that.
Oh, good
So I'm
grief.
a little mad what was easy, so yeah, that's another.
How old are they now?
9.
9.
Did the phrase, "this is why we can't have nice things," get spoken?
Frequently. Very. It's always, you're why we can't have nice things. But yes, and anybody listening, I always do that. They're twins. That's why they're both 9.
Right.
Mm.
So,
But yes, sorry, back to his way.
Katie was telling us something about a Jeep.
Oh, yes. A few years ago, I'm not sure if I was working on my 4-door Jeep at the same time Jeep was working on their 4-door Jeep, but I spent almost a year cutting the Jeep in half and pasting it back together to build a 4-door Jeep. And by the time we got it finished, Jeep launched their 4-door Jeep.
That's actually awesome, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
So you actually put 2 Jeeps together?
Yes, I turned it into a 4-door Jeep.
Good grief.
Didn't it have like
Cut cars in half and turned it to 2 doors, 4 doors, and 2 doors.
Didn't it have like 3 seats?
Yeah,
Yeah,
third row seat.
Third row
Wow.
seat.
Wow. They even the 4-door Jeeps now don't have 3 rows.
Yeah.
Really?
They just have more storage space.
Okay.
I have
yeah.
a Liberty now, but I was really trying to get a hold of one of the 4-door Wrangler models.
So this is sort of mind-boggling to me. Did you have to get a different frame? Did you have to lengthen the chassis in any way? Nothing. You just started with the Jeep chassis? Yeah.
Jeep sits on a full frame. You just cut the rear end off one and weld it to the rear end of the next one. You're gonna have to extend it, but it's not real complicated. It's easier than you think.
Is it?
You probably cut one further back than the other one and
you
took
just
the 2
paste.
long pieces.
Yes.
Like cut the nose off of one, and there was actually, I don't know if it's still going on, I would have to assume, but geez, I don't know, 20 years ago maybe, there was a big problem with some of these cars that were available for purchase just on used car lots actually being a combination of 2 cars. They were taking wrecked out cars, cutting them and welding them together, and it was somewhere around the time I think maybe Carfax was starting to come out, because there was such an epidemic of this weird stuff happening.
Right. Well, and part of me wonders how much of that was urban legend, but it must have happened.
No.
Because when I was a kid growing up, my parents were also saying some of the same things.
I remember some of the news reports coming out,
Exactly.
people finding it. It was always the Channel 2 or whomever investigator going out and finding these cars with weld jobs. And
I mean, that's almost
criminal.
I mean,
Well,
that's
it is
like collision
criminal.
repair at this point. You get a hard total in the rear. You literally buy an entire rear section and put it in. I mean, because cars now are all, unibody. So
Yes.
you get a hard rear end cut. I mean, hard rear end hit. You replace everything from the top of the roof rail behind the passenger door. The entire rear section of a car is basically another car at this point. So that's pretty common practice with a hard hit. Trunk. The whole rear body now is...
Well, and this is what I'm dealing with the Mazda. Someone rear-ended me about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'm debating just scrapping the car, because now the trunk doesn't shut, and that combined with the other laundry list of problems that's going on with that car, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, just sell it and for cheap and get another similar body,
We all need to descend on the Mazda and just see what we can do to help the poor thing.
I haven't taken off the back bumper yet, but the idea that the trunk doesn't shut is pretty much, it's the end of the car.
Is it alignment or latch?
It's latch. Well, it's the latch itself is fine, but the inside, the trunk lid is where it's supposed to be. The ring that it latches onto is pushed in by about an inch, maybe 2 inches tops. So I don't know what's underneath it. I don't know what what I can get in there and pull out. I don't know if there's a part that I can simply unbolt and put back in. But if you combine that with all the other stuff that's going on with the car, it's got valve cover leaks, it's got a headliner that needs replacing, it's got an intermittent emissions error at this point that I really haven't even started to play with, and a few other pings and knocks and whatever are happening with that car. It's just like maybe
just make a list.
Yeah.
Highlight the ones that are priority. I have bungee cords to help you with your trunk until we can get to it.
The funny thing is, gravity is doing a good job of keeping that thing shut.
What, until you go over some of the potholes outside?
Well, no, even then, it's weird. Speed bumps don't seem to affect it so much. So, yeah.
Well, that's good.
That spoiler is doing a fantastic job.
That's good. Because, the roads here in Atlanta always tell me when my trunk isn't shut.
Right.
Well, back to what he was saying, though, back then, the unibody wasn't what it is now. It was more of just a frame. So it was a lot easier for people to get away with it. Now, yeah, that would be a lot harder nowadays. That's actually a good thing.
And I'm tempted. I'm tempted to take the Mazda apart and see what's underneath that bumper, but
There's not much under there.
no?
Well, there's going to be rebar, and there's
going to be a rebar, but the rear end of his Mazda is just, I'm not even sure what gauge steel it is, but it's not even a hard pull if it's only in an inch.
About.
Yeah, it's not really a hard pull.
2005 Mazda 6S to be precise. So
why didn't the insurance company?
They did.
So take it back for a redo.
I think that the check that they cut me is going to be too small for the actual body shop to do the thing. So
you've got to stop letting them cut you a check. The money needs to be going to the repair shop, and the repair shop should.
Look.
I know.
To be fair, that's what they offered to do, and they still said, "Here, take this check and take the car to your body shop," because I told them which one, and they said if that guy discovers anything else that needs to get done, they'll work it out with him.
Right.
But again, combined with all the other stuff on the Mazda that I want to fix, is it worth it? Is it, well,
you're talking to the wrong person.
Yeah.
I will keep a car. I don't care if every part has fallen off of it.
Right.
I will keep the car and fix it.
Right. Because fixing the headliner, if I don't do it myself, that's a $300 job. If I don't fix the valve covers myself, that's something like an 8-hour job. If I then tackle the emissions stuff while I'm in there, it could be an O2 sensor. It could be a catalytic problem. Who knows? That's another.
Do you smell rotten eggs?
I do not smell rotten eggs.
It's not the
It depends on what I've
catalytic
been eating at the time, actually. So, yeah, it's not the cat, but the thing is obviously doing something weird. And I had
meowing.
I had written down the code at one time, and now I can't remember it, of course. But
and my code scanner's at home.
Yeah, I did that. I did the thing. Well, I don't have the Mazda here today anyway. But
that's true.
We are rambling, so let's move on with our agenda here.
On this episode, we ramble.
So yeah, we are gonna. This is completely no agenda episode. Let's do a little car trivia. Or wait, let's start with my little stupid car joke. You guys ready for this?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Car jokes. Okay, so the joke is, why is it called IndyCar?
That's already good.
Because out the car would not be very interesting.
All
right.
Yeah. Car surfing.
Car surfing.
So you could be out the car. You're racing with a car surfer.
Now, I can't imagine any insurance industry in the world would ever sanction that.
No, it's totally at your own risk.
Right. And they do that. You ever watch Reno 911?
No.
Yeah.
There was an episode of Bones, though, that had
Really?
a car surfer.
So when we say car surfing, what are we actually doing here?
You're on the car riding it like it's a surfboard.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And if you're really hardcore,
That's what I thought.
If you're really hardcore, there is no driver.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. I've seen
yes,
those.
I've seen
Well, there was an old made-for-TV movie about Jan and Dean that I recall where they did like the automotive equivalent of water skiing. They were on a skateboard behind the car with a rope.
Oh, yeah, we used to do that in my neighborhood when I was a kid. I had big trouble for that.
All right, so our moment of trivia for today, the Jalopy Joust, I think is what we're calling it. Richard Petty. We all know Richard Petty, big name in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So Richard's sponsor for many years was STP. What does STP stand for? Was it standard temperature and pressure? Was it standard tires and parts? Does STP stand for Speed Trap Phantom? Or does it stand for Scientifically Treated Petroleum? So let's think about that. We'll give the answer at the end of the episode.
Or sexually transmitted pneumonia. I don't know. something
I don't
like
want to know how you get that.
I know, I don't either.
I'm like, ew, God. All right.
Well,
so
STP sounds like STD. I'm just saying.
it does that actually. So the one thing, so we're going through the agenda here. Let's quickly talk about all-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive. Can we? My friends don't. Some of them think they're the same, and some of them obviously know that they're not the same.
A lot of people think they're the same.
Yeah. So you were buying a Jeep, and you ran into that.
Yeah, I ran into that a lot. Car salesmen, you name it. A lot of people just don't realize there's a difference.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at the various ads for cars that were for sale, the amount of them that would list it as all-wheel drive / four-wheel drive, or I would know which one the vehicle was ahead of time, and they would put the wrong one on there.
And even Craigslist or some other online marketplace doesn't have an AWD designation. If you wanted to select that, it'll say front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, but there's no all-wheel drive option. And that's like, I'm like, okay, four-wheel drive is not the same as all-wheel drive.
Well, and it could be a case of splitting hairs of four-wheel drive versus 4x4. Maybe the...
I think it's kind of semantics and marketing.
What are the different? Because I know that in each of these cases, every wheel gets some power.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is what, Ben?
Well, there's many differences as there are manufacturers, because, with your old school four-wheel drive systems, they were all, engage the front end manually, but now some are push button. Then with the so-called all-wheel drive systems, some use variable torque splits, some do not, some automatically engage and disengage. They work so many different ways. But in any case, we're all doing the same thing. We're getting all the wheels driven.
So what is the difference between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive?
I think it's whatever a manufacturer wants to claim it is.
Well, why don't we use the semantic 4x4 just to kind of differentiate? I don't know. And I'm not saying...
Which just means four wheels and four can be driven.
Right. I guess it's just the way we're used to it. If you have a 4x4, you're going mudding kind of thing. But the way I look at it, at least, that if it's a 4x4 for going off-road, say, you're going to have an extra... I don't know if I want to call it a lever or not, but you've got to lock something down, basically. And then your all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, whatever you want to call it, is live all the time. You don't have to, I guess, pull a lever. I can't say flip a switch just because I had a car way back when that had on-the-fly settings where you could flip a switch. So I don't want to use that one, but if you got to pull something up to lock something down, it's a 4x4. Otherwise...
We know I look at it a little backwards, though, because if it's always on, then it is more truly four-wheel drive than the one you have to turn one end on.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I think the Jeep is rear-wheel drive until I pull it up, but it's considered part-time, I think. But then you pull that lever, and then you go into the different highs and lows and fours and twos.
Right. So if we kind of have a general sense of what 4x4 means, what does 4x2 mean?
Four wheels total, two are driven.
To get power.
Yeah.
What does 2x4 mean?
It's a piece of wood that you can build something with.
Hey, okay, good. That's pretty much thought that. So,
I'm aware of a 2x2 vehicle out there too, though.
A 2x2.
There's a little motorcycle called a Rokon.
We knew it was going to be a motorcycle.
Come on. It had to be, yeah.
Two wheels. Yeah, it's got two wheels and they both get power.
Huh.
They use a flex drive to the front wheel. And of course, this is a low-speed bike with big donut tires. It's not something you're going to go a million miles an hour on the freeway on.
Right.
Somebody is going to modify that.
It's not Audi Quattro of bikes that has all-wheel drive and right.
This is a little thing for creeping through the woods on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Not Russian made, is it?
No, but that's funny you mentioned that because the Russian Ural brand, in this case, would be a 3x2 because it's a motorcycle with a sidecar and it has a drive shaft to the sidecar wheels. So it's got 2 out of 3 wheels driven. And it's also kind of an off-road machine.
You need to meet this lady. Say what?
So that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh, they're really fun in the snow. You get on YouTube, look for the Ural in the snow, and oh my God, this guy with this 2-wheel drive sidecar bike, and he's just thrashing around. He's having a good old time.
So the next thing on our agenda is, Oh yeah, okay. So let's do OCD/hoarding in cars, and which led us to a couple different things because obviously there are people who are doing the OCD/hoarding things in their cars. But Tay says he knows somebody who does the OCD hoarding of cars and has how many cars?
He has about 400 cars. It got so bad DeKalb County was fining him monthly to get rid of cars.
Oh my.
Wait,
Couldn't he
what?
just use, what am I going for? Where you rezone your property for a different land usage, he could say that he's a car part yard.
Yeah.
But how much? First of all, how much space does he have to store 400 cars?
I won't say who he is, but he bought a dealership.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the entire showroom of the dealership are his personal cars. The entire 90% of the mechanic bay are his cars.
This is my dream. by
And
the
when you
way.
walk out the back door,
Yeah.
you see a sea of cars that all belong to him, and you think that's it, but it has a second deck, the equivalent of the top deck, full of cars.
Oh wow.
Is
If
he
you can-
single?
Wow.
Is he single?
Are you kidding? Yeah. With that kind of a habit, I don't think.
Yeah, he's got-
yeah.
Everything from Challengers, the Camaros, a lot of Rolls Royces, Porsche, the old Porsche 911s.
Good grief.
I'm waiting to hear some cars I like.
Bentleys. I mean, if you can think of it, he had one the Kennedy Lincoln. He crushed it.
No.
Yeah, he's a European guy, so that didn't mean much to him.
Man, that's kind of sad. In many ways, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Has he ever uttered the phrase, "I'm going to fix him up someday"?
Yes, he has a shop at home. He's like 6 Porsches done. He just finished another one. It's in his showroom.
Yeah.
But once he finished, he got rid of a lot of cars so the county would get off of him. But I went and visited him a few weeks ago, and he's right back at it. Now he's buying like armored trucks.
Oh, good grief.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got a habit.
And
a
he's
lot of
right here
armored-
in DeKalb County.
Oh, yes.
Well, it's just he loves cars.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm not judging, right? But I'm thinking 400 cars, and you got to drive them. A car's meant to be driven, right? A car's meant, or at the very least, a car is meant to be shown.
And
if
that
not driven.
that was one of the best quotes from
Yeah.
Carol Shelby, because too many people were locking away Shelby's. Oh my God, can't drive it. You got to save it. Cars were meant to be driven.
Right.
I wholly agree.
Right. I mean, on the other hand, you have someone like Jay Leno who probably has how many cars?
He probably hires people to drive them for him.
He's got a
But-
staff, that's for sure.
I will say, if he does have 400 cars and they need to be driven, he can just be like, "Oh, hey, my friend, here, drive this around for a day."
Right.
What is that? Toro, or what is that one where you can rent people's personal cars?
Yeah, that is one. There's a
But I meant like not like paying or not costing somebody to drive it. Just be
Right.
like, "Hey, I need this car to be driven. Here,
Right.
could you drive it?" So then like, oh,
somebody
I
could
get to
pay
drive a
him.
Rolls Royce.
right.
Yeah,
They could
he's-
pay him
He's not
to-
that guy. No.
Yeah.
Becca's saying Turo or whatever it is. Turo
Yeah,
gets
it's
the-
like
yeah.
Toro or something, and you
I
can
don't trust it.
rent other people. Come on, how much would somebody pay to rent a Bentley?
I don't think it's really much
Yeah,
worse than
it's-
trusting someone to drive you around.
It's not just that, but I'm also like I've watched a lot of stuff about sports cars type rental type things
Mhm.
and more high end cars like Lamborghinis and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And it's not like that, and on itself, just being a single owned is already hard enough for like a company to have that.
Mhm.
It's like there's already like because stealing the cars and insurance reasons if they are wrecked and all that stuff. Like I still don't trust it because I wouldn't trust somebody else to drive my car
right.
Oh,
even
nobody.
if they pay me.
Nobody even gets to pull mine into a bay. It's like my friend Max knows if I come over there for tires, I'm pulling her in the bay. Nobody else.
I'm just
Nobody.
waiting for the headline where they say that Turo is not legal from an insurance perspective.
I'm wondering if signing up with that app extends you some sort of insurance, because on personal insurance,
It must.
it
Yeah.
starts getting difficult with that. I don't want to sit there and rant about it. It gets difficult with that. It's going to depend on your company, but I'll
When-
stop
Yeah.
there.
When I got rear-ended, the first question her insurance company asked me was she using her car for a commercial purpose? And did she have any passengers?
That's
meaning,
an odd question for a company to ask. I
meaning,
Not
guess.
anymore.
meaning was it a Lyft or an Uber driver who hit me?
Right.
So those insurance people, hit the microphone. Those insurance people are no longer, if you're doing a Lyft or Uber, you have to have a rider or you have to have a different kind of insurance than just regular auto insurance. So
And one of I think it's Uber, isn't it? Provides I think $1 million in liability when you
somebody
sign
does.
up with them.
Yeah.
So yes, there are insurance issues, but it's more clear when you're using it for commercial.
Yeah.
If you are still using it for personal, but you're renting it to somebody, that's where it
Right.
can get a little muddy.
Right. But I think the law would say that if you're using an app to make that transaction possible, it's now a commercial purpose. So
I
but
think
I'm not
lot
a
of-
lawyer, so I don't know. What can I?
I think the verbiage and the insurance policies are really going to have to get up to date with that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Because the problem is, and the less clear the verbiage is,
Yeah.
the more it benefits the person who holds the policy, not the carrier.
Right.
So they need to get in there and start clarifying. So I'm sure some of them
Yeah.
have already started.
Right. So what else should we talk about?
We got lots on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, well, I want to find out the question.
What were you about to say, Tay?
Looking at the board.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
I want to hear about the question. Why is my car an asshole?
Yes.
That's a good one.
So I asked for more information, and what happened was I put it out on my own Facebook feed. I said to my friends, "Look, we're going back into the studio. Give us your car questions." And my friend Jennifer said exactly that. She's like, "Why is my car such an asshole?" And
That's pretty vague.
it is pretty vague. And
Yes.
so I said, "Please tell us more about what's going on with the car." And she didn't. So I know it's an old Toyota. I believe it's a Camry. It has just been driven into the ground, and I think that's part of the problem, right?
Well, maybe it's a
So-
zombie now, and
Right.
it's not that it's an asshole. It's just it's tired and cranky.
It's tired and cranky. I mean, on the one hand, I think it's a Camry, and either way, it's a Toyota, and it should be mostly bulletproof, which it is. But every car, even old Toyotas, get to a point where stuff starts to go wrong.
Well, on my way
And-
here,
yeah.
I was behind an 80s era, and I mean early 80s era Toyota Corolla, and somebody had spiffied this thing up, and it was just hauling around. And if you were, if you didn't know the box cars of the 80s,
Yep.
you would have wondered, what is that? I mean, he had really taken good care. So
Yep.
it's more about the care of the car, not really age or mileage or any of that.
Yep. So,
So maybe she's just driven it into the ground. It's tired, it's cranky, and it wants her to go the
yeah.
F away. I don't know.
Yeah. So she's I think she's planning to get rid of it. And she said to me later, she's like, "Mickey, I'm looking for this time a Corolla." And she told me how much she wanted to spend. So I'm like, "Have you checked out, these online marketplaces?" She's like, "No, I didn't know about those two." So she went to go look. And then she came back and said, most people are looking at, I think she wanted to spend around $3,000 on an old car, a really old car. And she came back and she said, "Wow, a lot of these people, $3,000 is their down payment." And I'm like, "For a Corolla?
Oh, at least though.
For
with
an
new-
old Corolla?"
Oh, I'm talking about new cars
Yeah,
nowadays.
Yeah. So no, I would not dream of.
But
yeah.
she has an old car, so why doesn't she take that $3,000 and invest in a new engine
Right.
or something that's going to bring it back to life?
Sometimes you can't help an old car.
Exactly.
You can always help a car.
I've
I'm
got
sorry.
one that's haunted. You can't help it.
Then you're not talking to the ghosts right. I have stories. I'm not kidding you. I have stories.
you sound like you've got experience with haunted
Oh,
cars.
yes.
I think we need to talk about his haunted cars over
Yes.
here.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
Oh my gosh, man! I
Well,
bought a.
Let's before we get into that, and sorry to leave folks with a cliffhanger. We are out of time
Dun,
for this
dun, dun.
episode.
Oh.
So
Oh, it is
Okay.
a cliffhanger.
I promise we will come back and talk about Tay's haunted cars.
Wait, we
yeah.
need that creepy organ music that
Dun, dun,
used to
dun.
end.
And-
No, it was that would end like Dark Shadows back in the 70s. We need the organ music that would just trail off.
So for anybody who knows what Becca's talking about,
I'm not that old. I had an older brother.
yes,
Have.
yes.
Well, does anybody know what the trivia question answer is?
Oh, thank you, Ben.
Yes.
Thank you for the reminder. And let's. Okay, so the question was, what does STP stand for? That's essentially the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it stand for standard temperature and pressure? Does it stand for standard tires and parts, speed trap phantom, or scientifically treated petroleum? Let's start here, Becca.
I think it's going to have to be the scientifically treated petroleum.
Okay.
I concur with Becca.
Okay.
I concur.
I agree
I like
with-
that. You're so formal.
Katie
I agree with both of them.
and Ben.
I do too.
In fact, you're all correct. So, STB is an American brand and trade name for automotive aftermarket products, especially lubricants such as motor oil and motor oil additives. The name began as an abbreviation of scientifically treated petroleum. So that is correct. Good job, you guys. So-
Well, anybody who's been to enough auto parts store and has
Yeah.
perused their fluid section, I guess. I've never seen STP in a tire section or a part section, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
they got lots and lots of good additives. So
It's also exactly the kind of naming that 20th century American industry comes up with.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so-
Anyway, well done. And on that note, we will break for today. Thank you as always for listening to us. We are very glad that you're part of the Thing About Cars family. We would welcome your support via our Patreon, which is patreon.com/thethingaboutcars. The conversational party is happening on Facebook, our Facebook page. And you can always drop us your questions and comments via our website, which is thethingaboutcars.com. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you again next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.